On this episode of AV Week, NEC is letting you put Raspberry Pis into their displays. LG is courting consultants and architects and putting PoE Plus into your control processor. All that and more next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 308, recorded Friday, July 21st, 2017. IT Protocols.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Christie Digital and by
Biant. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to talk about the news and information that we have gathered this week. First and foremost, my buddy and pal and younger brother from another mother. His name is Mike Shin, and he's from Barracks. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tim. How are you?
I am doing well. Also with us is Ms. Corey Schaefer from QSC. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fabulous. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed. Yeah, it's a lovely thing. Last week, George Tucker let me have the day off, or the week off, I guess. So I was very appreciative of that. And last but not least, Ariel Marcus. Ariel is from Media Solutions. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thanks for joining us in the late afternoon, early evening over in Israel. Appreciate it.
It's late night
already. It's not late yet.
Yeah.
My time
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Okay. Yeah, it's late then. All right, let's get this started so Ariel can go to bed. First and foremost, a couple weeks ago, NEC added the ability to insert a Raspberry Pi into their displays. Well, why does that matter? I guess is the best way to put this. We're taking the story from Almo. Almo's John Wills writes, quote unquote, the bottom line is that with Raspberry Pi, software application developers and digital signage content creators now have many flexible and scalable platforms to choose from. So, Mr. Shen, we're going to start with you on this one. With the addition of Raspberry Pi, and if you're not familiar with Raspberry Pi, Google it. It's a very robust programming platform and little piece of hardware. I mean, it's not the actual chipset is not very big. People have put them and use them for old game console emulators. They've used them in all sorts of different areas. It's actually a really great place. I've gotten my daughter started on programming. I started her with Raspberry Pi. It's a great little platform. But Shin, when it comes to these devices and starting to put these into AV products, how does this change the design process? How does this change the design consideration when you're adding a piece of IT technology now, really wholly owned, IT technology into some of these AV products?
Well, first and foremost, after talking about Raspberry Pis for the last, 3 years or so, it certainly says that they are definitely here and they're here to stay and continue development. What it means from a design perspective is we're going to have, completely outside the box concepts for how we can put receiver devices towards a display. Right now, it's a box that's going to get mounted either behind the display or down the hall and connected via some kind of an extender. Now it's built into the display, and we're talking about a computer that's this big. It's not like the big honkin' displays that have a small form factor that's inserted into the bottom of it. What it tells integrators is that because the Raspberry Pi is so here and now, we should be looking again at software development people beyond just control programming, because this has huge potentials down the road for what we can then offer as a proprietary solution to our customers, offering new levels of managed services revenue and recurring revenue.
Corey, that actually is a very nice segue into you and QSC. You guys have released, QSC has the ability to put QSC software on regular old switch, routers and computer, good Lord, network devices. I can't even think today. They should never give me a day off. when it comes to this, and it was unique in the fact that it was the first that I'm aware of, the first AV platform to be able to be put on a non-hardware specific device, right?
Mhm.
What does it say, I guess, is the best way to ask this? How does leveraging these wider IT systems and these wider IT platforms help manufacturers and help AV companies?
Well, now AV at the end user level falls under IT, right? So it's common product, common language, it's common to that group, and IT are often making decisions on budget, et cetera. And it used to be where we didn't want any AV gear on the network, not on my network, and so on. But when they see common gear that they're used to buying, it's trusted, right? So we're really just shifting everything to a platform and the flexibility that a platform brings. And I mean, we're used to this, in the IT world, and AV is definitely coming along. So just having a network port on a device doesn't necessarily mean that the IT team will adopt it. So all that we can do to talk their language and to bring the equipment that's familiar to them and that they trust. That's what we're trying to do at QSC.
Ariel, same kind of question. When you're talking to integrators and you're talking to folks who are trying to talk to the IT folks, how can manufacturers help that conversation get started? And it's a question that I've asked several times over the last couple of years is, how can manufacturers help the AV folks not only have a place at the table when it comes to IT, but also talk intelligently? And Corey mentioned, it used to be that AV stuff was not allowed on the network, and now it's becoming a little bit more commonplace. But how can AV folks make the IT manager, make the decision makers feel more comfortable when we start talking about putting things on the network?
I think that first of all, I'm very familiar with the Raspberry Pi. For the last 3 years, I'm following them, and I'm using part of the boards that they have, the different types and different things. There are a lot of things that the IT guys will be able to do in terms of the video using those Raspberry Pi and using those small computers, not just managing, also by video processing. It will provide them a huge benefit and huge visibility of adding the video. And as you probably know, all of the video is going through the different IP, if it is an HDBaseT over IP, or if it is SDVoE that are going and putting those stuff. So I think those small computers will help a lot in the integration of the AV into the IT fields.
Right, because it's easier to install, it's less things to worry about integrating. I mean, there are multiple reasons.
And
The interface is very easy also. You can program it in Python. You don't need just the C+ or whatever. And it's you have a lot of free codes for those units that you can use.
Right.
And it's one less point of potential failure. It's easier to troubleshoot that over the network as opposed to having to dispatch a specific tech to that particular location to, unplug the Ethernet connection, replug it back in, check the power supply. It's one less power supply that can fail. There's a lot of positives to it.
Well, it also, Mike, and actually all three of you, it broadens your employee base or potential employee base, right? I mentioned the fact that I've started my daughter on programming, and I've started it with Python, not because I think she's going to be some grand developer, but it gets her involved and it gets her knowledgeable. You've got folks who are going to school for computer networking, computer science, who are coming out of four-year universities with all this big broad range of programming that they can do. And if you're an AV integrator, Mike, you're going to look at them and go, oh, we're going to send you to class for 2 more weeks so you can learn X, Y, Z. I'm not going to pick on any program, on a control program. And I'm saying that as a former programmer, right? But you're going to take them and say, Python, Ruby on Rails. Great. We've got this product over here that you can get to work on right now and today and help us do this install. So, Alrighty, next one up. We're going to talk about LG and consultants for a second, and God love our consultants. One of our guys, Josh Rago, is a fine consultant out of San Francisco. LG has introduced the Pro Design Commercial Display Program for architects and consultants. It comes from our friends over at AV Networks. Quote unquote, the new program is designed to give professionals often involved in the integration decision-making process access to industry trend insights, dedicated technical and sales support, unique product training programs, and research that will enhance their ability to successfully execute their design. Corey, start with you on this one from a manufacturer. Architects and consultants specifically also, obviously these are folks who a lot of times drive the decision-making process, or at least call out, specific products. How does QSC reach out to this group and to this group of professionals?
They're critical. We treat them like partners, and I'm going to throw in another one there, which would be an owner's rep, which is a bit of a kind of a hybrid between an architect and a consultant, and they're also very important to us. So we just treat them like partners, and so yes, we have programs so that we're constantly hitting them with information. We hit them at a level of Joe Pham, our CEO, getting in front of them and talking about the vision of our organization, because it's important that they buy into our vision and understand the path that we're headed on, so that builds trust and confidence in the solutions that they're specifying, if it happens to be QSC. And then we hit them at a local level. We have regional sales directors, and we happen to use independent reps, and they're constantly calling on them and keeping them in the loop. And then we try to do special events as well. Sometimes we'll bring them into the House of QSC so that they can get much deeper into what QSC, who we are and what we're about, to see how we manufacture, talk to product managers, be able to A/B different technologies, etc. And it's getting harder and harder because we have multiple locations, and so we have what I call them our think tank, our development team. They're in Boulder, Colorado, and then we're headquartered in Southern California. So you have to think about who we're trying to address within those types of firms and where best to place them. And I think at the architectural level as well, often aesthetics matter. So it's about trying to get to them, often through that interior side.
Is it something where you get feedback? You're talking about the architects specifically. Is it something where you get feedback from them when it comes to certain products? Because not that QSC doesn't just have DSPs. You have products that are actually seen in the space.
Yeah, and matter of fact, they were a big reason why we took our logos, our prominent logos off of speakers and made them less obvious. They didn't really like, to see a large, perhaps orange, brand out there, which was a non-QSC. However, even those ours were more subtle, they also didn't want to see those. So it definitely matters. And then when we think about speaker design, and we maybe take a speaker and we go low profile and it becomes wider in range, and then how that gets put into a ceiling, these are very important, people to make sure that we get on board.
Yeah. Ariel, same kind of question to you. As you're trying to develop product or introduce new product, how important is it getting feedback from both the architects and the consultants from you guys?
I think it's very important to see their thought. I think that the integration with the architects in order to implement and to do those integrations will be very tough. Each and every architect will come with his idea, and not everything can be done, and this is one of the main problems. But I think it will be very nice to see some new wind inside the different implementation. But at the same time, integrators will meet a lot of trouble on implementing those, on different variety of requests that will appear. We need to think also on bandwidth, how we transfer all the video, for example, not just the audio. And if we will be able to do that, the signage will become more complicated and the wall screens will be very problematic in implementation. As we can see also from the images that they just publish on the article, I think it will be very complicated one.
Mr. Shen, I want to take a little bit different spin with you. Varix, not for nothing, like a lot of integrators now, or you guys have expanded? You guys have been doing it for years, but you have offices throughout the world, right? Internationally. Can you talk for a second about the differences between connecting with this group of folks in North America versus connecting with them in London, maybe, or Hong Kong, or wherever?
Yeah, so in North America, we have a better chance in general here to engage with architects and design consultants earlier on in the process, at least on projects that are design build. We have a very strong engagement with the consultants here in the U.S. We have strong engagement with consultants overseas. Oftentimes, the consultants overseas even get brought in a little bit later than when the architects are already putting in lighting in the ceiling and establishing various environmental constraints. So I think that LG's approach is going to be very impactful across the globe because they're targeting the architects. They want to partner with the architects and then partner side by side with the consultants as well, which is a beautiful thing. It's a match made in heaven, because by the time that the project hits an integrator like us, whether it's our location here in New York, or if it's out in Hong Kong or in China where we're doing work, hopefully this will avoid some of the change orders and some of the adjustments that need to come out of, oh wait, we didn't anticipate the height of this light versus the location of that particular display. So I think it'll certainly help overseas. One of the biggest struggles that we have working with overseas partners is the time difference. It's not so much of an issue in Europe, but when you're trying to go back and forth with drawing sets and updates with people in India and China, that 12-hour time difference really has an effect. So again, getting in early enough where there isn't such a need for an immediate response as quickly as possible in order to not stall the project is a great benefit to all integrators globally.
Mike, you bring up a comment about the furniture and being how important that is to the AV part of a project as well, and I couldn't agree more. And Tim, what I would say is the approach that QSC is starting to take is getting in at that end user level. So we focus on these large global enterprise customers, and as they're creating standards or thinking about standards, we look at all of the players involved in that, because the standard isn't just on technology, right? They're creating standard furniture. They have a common lighting, the things that Mike mentioned. And so that is how we're having, actually, I would say probably more success getting in early and understanding who are all the key players in the overall creation of the standard, and not just waiting for, quote, an AV standard, because all of us want to get in early into a project.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
And on the enterprise level, that AV standard is evolving as the technology evolves. So right. The standard that occurred in say Poland in 2011 is going to be a completely different standard than what we're integrating in India in 2013. So we need to have that flexibility, but the furniture could remain the same. The lighting may remain the same. So that could be a design that just sticks for 5 years, whereas we have to have that flexibility. And those first couple projects, we might be stumbling out of the gate in order to understand what that furniture design is, what that lighting design is, the environment, and then adapting the technology as it evolves on a 6 month to a year basis.
Yeah, I visited a large enterprise client, and it was clear that all partners were not involved in the project, because they had this amazing display for floor to ceiling, but really half the content was cut off because of the furniture. It's sad.
Awesome.
I can tell you that part of what we're doing, we're designing currently a smart home, and part of this designing the AV distribution, Z-Wave, all the different controls that we have, we've been working with architects. The main problem is the concept of thinking. Whatever they think that it's very easy to pass and very easy to do, and putting the display in a certain location where it fits the lighting and everything, it's a very, very problematic. And from our experience in Israel, and we did some pilots on testing the option of doing that, it's very complicated and it's very challenging. I think it's a good approach. I think it's a good change, so that in modern houses, you can implement things in an easy way. Of the smart home, for example, that's the main idea.
Yeah, Ariel, I think what we're saying is we just everyone comes at it with their own agenda. So an architect's going to come at it trying to get potentially a certain look that they've worked with their customer on.
Yeah.
And with technology, we're coming at it trying to make it very functional and making sure we deliver what the customer wants. And we all just have to understand each other's needs and communicate and get in early and build those relationships so that each person's needs hopefully can be met in the project.
Exactly.
And there is a very fine line with every unique design between walking the aesthetic versus walking the functionality. And from an integrator standpoint, we struggle with that day in and day out.
We do as well, because with speakers to be heard, I mean, you kind of need to have speakers in the room and well placed, etc.
Exactly.
Yes, but if I've heard more than one architect complain about both speakers and touch panels and how unappeasing they are to them and their sensibilities, I guess is the best way to put that.
Yeah, they're a key influencer to how we do speaker design, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last story here, and I'll let you guys get going. Real quickly before we start this, Extron is an underwriter of AVNation, so but they have released a IPCP Pro 360. Extron has, and they say it's the world's first control processor with PoE Plus. Talk about that in a second and why that matters. Ariel, we're going to start with you. When it comes to PoE and power over Ethernet and talk for a second about, from a design standpoint and a manufacturing standpoint, where does PoE fit into the entire system? Does it matter to have PoE? Does it matter to have power over the Ethernet?
I think it's very important, especially now if we're connecting it back to the architectures and the things that they required to the previous article. Then you will see that a lot of demand is coming to have less and less cables installed. Having less cables means less also power. If you are familiar with HDBaseT and the POH, for example, which is 100 watt, this means that, for example, you can take a display, place it somewhere in the room, and you don't need more than the category 5 cable to connect it. Means you get the power, you get the audio, you get the Ethernet, you get everything from it. So it's become very important and a major player in designing and having those cables running all around. I think it's very, very important to have that. And the main thing is the POH that we're seeing with the HDBaseT implementations.
Mike, is Ariel right? Is it having less cables to run directly to a device, directly to a display or what have you? Does that help in the design process and also in the installation process?
Oh, absolutely. It makes the design process much simpler, but it saves time on site. And we all know that labor is one of the highest costs to operating a business. So, anything that can allow my technicians to install something faster, I'm going to get behind it. But the other aspect to this is it's one less point of failure, like I was talking about before when we were talking about Raspberry Pi. Now we don't need a PoE injector in line that has a separate power supply that could fail. I'm the director of Global Managed Services here. Service Desk, reports up to me. You should see the number of tickets that I do on my reports that are due to failed power supplies. We're replacing several a week, and it's just a failure point. So eliminating that, or eliminating a really expensive PoE network switch to be put in line, is a great benefit. I think it's a phenomenal development in the Extron product line.
All right, Corey, last question for you here is when it comes to PoE is again, it's a broader protocol. When QSC is looking at adjusting and developing their existing product line, because that's what this is. It's an adjustment on an existing product line. How do you guys determine which road to go down, right? Whether it's PoE or whether it's utilizing Python or another type of programming, how do you guys decide, this is the direction we want to go?
So we try to think from an IT perspective that drives most decisions at QSC. And in IT, how are things deployed? And as far as devices in the room, PoE is great because it's, as everybody's already mentioned, it's less point of failure, etc. And it's just one cable. And we view what goes into the room really as an on-ramp or an off-ramp. That's how we're viewing it, because that's how IT thinks of things.
Makes sense. All right, that is going to be the last word for us today. Mr. Mike Shin, thank you, sir. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you again, Tim. Appreciate it as always.
And how do people find you and or Verix if they want to do so?
Verix is easy. It's verix.com or at Verix on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. People can find me directly at AXP Mike on Twitter. Just search Michael Shin on the interwebs. And, well, actually, don't do that. Don't do that at all. Just stick to Twitter.
Wow. Corey Schaefer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. To find more about QSC, it's qsc.com. You can find me on Twitter at Corey Schaefer and on LinkedIn, Corey Schaefer 1, the numeral 1. So, and Corey is C-O-R-Y.
There's more than one Corey Schaefer?
There is more than one Corey Schaefer.
Not to me. There's only one Corey Schaefer. So, Ariel, sir, thank you so much for joining us. It was nice to meet you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
If you want to find more about Media Solution, you can find us and you can find me over the website on LinkedIn also. The website is m4sol.com. Thank you.
All right, very good. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me. At this point, it is the end of July, so the Bears will start losing in about 2 weeks, and that's what I'll be grousing about on Twitter. But go by the website. Lots of great folks have put an awful lot of hard work into it. AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv, and when you're there, check out our underwriters section. These are the folks who support us, allow us to do what we do. We are actually already gearing up for CEDIA. That's our next trade show, so that comes to you the first week of September, actually the week of Labor Day. We'll be doing stuff there. After that, we have a couple more regional stuff that we're doing. Also, check out a new program that we have. It's called the Daily Download. Every day, we're going to give you 5 minutes of some of the best AVNation programs delivered to your podcasting app every single morning. So check that out. You can also get us on iTunes or any other podcasting app you have, or go by the website, like I said, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been AV Week.